Hi, I'm Jillian Anderson.
And I'm Matt Gross.
And this is Post-Race Purgatory, where we judge all things NASCAR. We just watched the Daytona 500, and to start off the season, we had a photo finish.
Yeah, one of the closest finishes in history, 1/100th of a second since electronic scoring began in 1993. It ties for the 10th closest finish, along with the Dale Earnhardt-Bobby Labonte race, the Cracker Barrel Old Country Store 500 in 2000, and the Casey Kane-Matt Kenseth photo finish, where Kenseth beat Kane narrowly at Rockingham. Of the interesting enough, I was just looking over these closest finishes when I was just looking at the list. 3 of the 7 closest on there were actually in Daytona dual races. So if you eliminate those, then this is actually the 7th closest finish since electronic scoring began. But it was right up there.
Ultimately, Denny Hamlin was the winner of this race. But really, if we're going to talk about true winner, I think we got to give that to Joe Gibbs.
Oh my God. It has been a long, long time since I have seen that type of a shellacking from an organization on a restrictor plate track. You're basically talking how good, I would say, approaching how good the DEI cars were in 2000. Obviously, they haven't done it for a 2 or 3 year stretch, so I'm not going to put it in that same class overall in terms of years. But in terms of a single race, my goodness, if you include Martin Truex as part of the Gibbs Association, which I think you do now because they're clearly sharing equipment, and they clearly were playing games late on those restarts with Martin Truex allowing Hamlin to get in front of him. I mean, they very nearly took the top 5 spots.
They really did. I mean, the worst finish we had was Matt Kenseth, only because he wrecked.
And he was leading with a mile to go.
And still got 14th out of this.
And how about Edwards, who had the right front fender was torn off the car, and he still was battling for a top 5 position at the end of the race.
Oh, yeah. It was like salt on an open wound for the community who considered Hendrick Motorsports on top. That is obviously no more. This is something that they're still good. I'm not going to take that away. But here at this package, we could clearly see that Gibbs was so much more dominant.
Yeah, I'm not going to quite proclaim them dead yet. I shouldn't say dead, but I'm not going to quite say they're second yet because I want to see what happens at Atlanta and Phoenix and Bristol when we get together tracks. However, I fully expect the Gibbs cars to continue to be better. This organization, when Carl Edwards is your 4th best driver, and I think at this point, or 4th best team, I should say, whether you want to dispute driver talents, that is unbelievable how high the floor of the Gibbs organization is right now. And I do expect it to continue. I just don't want to declare it officially yet. But they were just head and shoulders above everybody else. And you're talking about the end of the race, they kept saying, well, a lot of people, the group we were watching the race with, were saying, well, the inside line's the place to be. You couldn't pass on the outside. I actually think you may have been able to pass on the outside. I think the problem in this race was you couldn't pass the Gibbs cars on the outside because as soon as Denny Hamlin jumped to the outside at the end of the race and Harvick pushed him, the outside lane went.
Additionally to that, we had at one point where Jimmy Johnson was in the lead on the inside. Now, we had some Gibbs games going on here, but he couldn't clear Denny Hamlin for a very long time. Now, what we had going on there as well was we did have a little bit of Busch holding back because he did not want to help push Johnson.
Also, Jimmy was on 2 tires at that point in the race, so you don't really know.
But we had 2 different examples showing where on the outside where it works is if you're Gibbs, and where if you weren't Gibbs, it didn't work. And I think that this is something that has been building up a little bit from the previous season because you want to take a look at Homestead of last year just to draw a quick flashback. Look at the Gibbs setup cars versus all the Hendrick cars. The Hendrick had the longest time to prepare for Homestead.
You're talking about Gordon championship
being the first one in there.
Very disappointing effort.
That car was nowhere near competitive in comparison to the Gibbs. So we've seen a little preview. You're right, we definitely need to see more, but I really think that we can say now, I put Gibbs as the number 1 team.
Yeah, I put him as the number 1 team. I just I want to separate what happens at Daytona from what happens at all the other tracks. Because we've seen this before, where what happens at Daytona is not necessarily a good litmus test for what happens in the mile and a half. But I think, I expect to see Gibbs ahead in both the mile and a half and the restrictor plate department. But never has Gibbs been this far ahead at restrictor plate. I mean, this is, I'm trying to think back maybe when you had Hendrick finished 1, 2, 3 with Gordon, Terry Labonte, and Ricky Craven in 97. DEI was really dominant for a while. Obviously, they had 1, 2 in 2001. But really, I mean, this was really a shellacking that we have not seen in a long, long time, particularly at a restrictor plate racetrack.
Absolutely.
From an organization. Well, the next thing that I wanted to go into here is the day versus night racing at Daytona. And this is something that has become less important since they repaved Daytona 5-6 years ago. But it's starting to age. It's starting to age, and what you're seeing now is you're seeing the cars slide around quite a bit when it gets warm and sunny out.
I love it.
Which, yes, it
makes for more interesting racing.
But the takeaway here for me is that this is now the first time we have a track that really, really gets slick and causes the cars to handle poorly on long runs since NASCAR moved the Thursday qualifying races to nighttime. And I think that's really significant because now what you have the Sprint Unlimited and the Saturday night a week before is at night. The twin races are at night. And these teams don't want to go show their whole hand in practice because they're afraid of wrecking.
Right.
So by the time you get to Daytona 500, they don't really know how these cars are going to handle in big packs on long runs.
Races.
And that came home to roost today. When you do not understand how these cars are going to handle on long runs and which cars are not going to slide around, answer to that was the Gibbs cars. You don't really understand how good certain guys are. And this is, I think, the illusion that we got into this week, where I think where a lot of people thought that the Hendrick cars were going to be closer to the Gibbs cars than they were. I was one of them. And looking back on it, you put the sunshine on there, Gibbs cars handled so big. You saw Chase Elliott, Hendrick car, lost it coming off turn 4. Junior ended up in the wreck coming off turn 4 when he had to get super aggressive just to try to keep up with the Gibbs cars. And Jimmy almost lost a couple of them. Jimmy made some great saves in turn 3 and 4.
Seen it, and that just comes from his experience and expertise at coming in those saves. But even with that, he wasn't really dominant. There was actually 2 mistakes that I saw from the 48 team. One made by him when he got caught up in the middle and not getting back in. That's always been a weakness.
So when he didn't get in front of Ryan Blaney.
Yes, when he didn't get in front of Ryan Blaney.
This is the run when he took 2 tires, and then the Gibbs cars eventually got around him, and then he fell back, I think, to 15th, 16th.
Absolutely. And the other one was we had a man over the wall too soon, so they had a pit road penalty. Normally, that's not something that we see happen.
Yeah, and they were done at that. You were not. Their car was not good enough to get back up
by that
to the
point.
field with 40
and then
laps
we
to
just
go.
had Casey Kane, who was just a non-factor.
But he was actually in top 10. He actually wasn't that bad considering where Hendrick was. I don't think he was that bad. You kind of think him as the runt of the Hendrick organization, but considering what the Hendrick cars look like today, I don't think he actually ran that bad, considering all things considered.
I agree with that. But what I want to talk about now is the worst move of the race. It's a segment that I would like to call Purgatory Penalty Box. Okay, this is where we're going to talk about the most sinful move of the race. We can nominate anyone for this, and we're going to do it every week. This could be a driver, a crew chief, a pit crew, NASCAR, the announcers, whatever we think was the biggest problem, we're going to nominate for the Purgatory Penalty Box. And I have mine already.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on this one.
On this one, Purgatory Penalty Box has to go to Greg Biffle's crew team. Oh my gosh. Putting the left tire on the right rear of the car, leading to them blowing that tire.
He's lucky that the tire blew out on a straightaway and not in the middle of the corner, because that's the only reason why he wasn't done for the day in that wreck. They would eventually get involved in another wreck with Danica Patrick a little bit later to finish the car off. But I am just stunned that you have a team making that type of a mistake in this environment. I mean, can you imagine the Gibbs or the Hendrick team putting the tire on the wrong side of the car? This just shows you how far Jack Roush's team has fallen compared to where they were 10 years ago. Remember, they had 5 guys in a 10-man chase in 2005. Yeah. And now they are a team making laughingstock moves. Laughingstock. Putting the left rear tire on the right rear on the car in the biggest race of the year.
That is embarrassing.
That is just not
unbelievable that we had to actually rewind it to see if we heard that correctly.
Yeah, we did.
It was. Well, guys, let us know in the comments below. What do you think was the worst move of the race? Have anyone else for nomination besides Greg Biffle's?
And if you have thoughts on Hendrick versus Gibbs, let us know.
We want to know. Like, comment, subscribe so you can see these videos every week. We'll be back next Monday reporting on Atlanta.